I'm Linda Anarino. I come to you from the metropolis of Baudette, Minnesota on Lake of the Woods. I pride myself in the fact that I live in the only county in the state that doesn't have a traffic light. I know. I don't know everything. I don't know what works everywhere. But what I do know is what I have done. And I can share those experiences with you, and I can hammer out, do the grunt work for you, and see a lot of what worked and what didn't work. If you want to stay the market that you are today, if you're happy with the number of vendors that you have in your market, if you don't want to grow, if you do not want to move and expand your market, you don't have to stay after lunch today. If you do or have interest in any of those areas, that's what I'm here for. If I don't have the answer, I'll find it for you somewhere. There's a lot of markets to Because of what you're doing, we have been able to get grant funding. We have been able to gift the markets. Raise your hand if you received a mini grant this year. $250, there you go. Excuse me, don't tell anybody. It's free money. All you have to do is say, please. Is that hard? No, we can go, please. And then you get the money to grow your vendors, to grow your shoppers, to grow your market, to help your community to get more dollars and cents in the local businesses. Now I'm going to introduce you to Terry Nenich and his wife Lauralee. And Terry is on the board for the Minnesota Farmers Market Association. And he has news to share, and he can answer questions and help you with whatever you might need to know, or point you in a direction. You're a good direction pointer. So Terry, introduce yourself and talk about what you know best.
That isn't too much, but we'll continue and talk a little bit here. We actually started the Farmers Market Association, the state one, back in the early 2000s when several of us one night were sitting in an institution and kind of came up with it, and that's where we kind of started it. And we had our struggles the first 3 years, but now we're doing really well. Of course, we're a nonprofit, education nonprofit. We're not a 501c3, we're a 501c6, which can still accept grants, but does have some limitations on the nonprofit side. So, and I'm not going to tell you a lot of the things that we kind of initiated, but we were one of the key initiators in the EBT program for farmers markets. About 8 or 10 years ago, they chose like 5 or 6 states to pilot it. Our association got to be one of us, and we chose 8 markets in the state to pilot it. Needless to say, the final report wasn't quite as rosy as I would have liked in the first year of the EBT. We just realized how much work it was, and now Department or the Blue Cross Blue Shield has stepped in with a lot of funding. A lot of you may have been in their program last year, and if you're not, you should be applying for it just about right now.
What does EBT stand for?
EBT, Electronic Benefit Transfer. Okay. It's the same as what we call food stamps. SNAP, same thing. Okay. And if any of you need any help in getting to be qualified, it's not really a big job. Just only that much USDA paperwork, right. But beyond that, no, it isn't quite that bad. Okay, so I won't spend a lot of time on that. But what do we do? We offer a lot of insurance, and that's kind of one of our key things that we were able to put together is $2 million policy for any market or a market vendor who wants it, and the market vendor can also sell at other locations besides the one farmer's market. So that's good. I think it's $70 a year this year. So anyway, what are some of the other things? year, how many of you got involved with that hand washing grant? Okay,
The
we
what?
did a hand washing grant last year
Oh,
under
yeah.
the new regulations. I was just talked to our executive director this morning. They said to be money this year for 20 to 30. And I have to apologize, for those of you that know me, a couple of years ago I was diagnosed with CLL, which is a form of leukemia. And I was in pretty rough shape for a while. And I'm the kind of the one that drives things. Like she says, you know, I'll drive it, you do the work, and I'll kind of make sure it gets done. Well, I wasn't there for 6 months to drive some of this stuff, so now we're just kind of getting back up to speed again. Our new farmer's market manual is in the print right now, believe it or not, after umpteen years. That kind of stopped last year when I got sick too. That should be out it'll be online, or you can get a hard copy here. A lot of updation with laws and that type of thing. A couple of food bills that are going on that you may want to be aware of. Last year we were very strong in the legislation. As a University of Minnesota employee, I'm not allowed to actually be on board technically. I can be an advisor to the board. We can't deal directly with legislation unless we're called in for education on some real facts. So I have to kind of be careful there. But so we did get the food safe sampling legislation passed that allows you to sample at farmers markets. And I won't go into a lot of that, but we are having a safe food sampling training for the Northwest. It's going to be Bemidji on March 11th at 9 to 11. And I think Linda, it's $20, but I think Linda is paying for that if you want to apply for a grant. And there are handouts going around, so make sure you sign up. We've already passed the 15 minimum, so that's not really a strong issue. Season extension, so I was going to talk a little bit on legislation. As most of you know, the Farmers Market Association was involved in, before the food sampling, two major aspects of legislation. One was what we call the non-hazardous food bill, which allows you to sell non-hazardous food, which is basically baked goods, candy, high sugar items, that type of thing, at a farmer's market up to $5,000 a year. And the other one is what we call a pickle bill, which allows you also to sell up to $5,000 at a farmer's market a year. We won't go into all the details, but it's got to be a pickle type item that the pH is 4.6 or below. Part of the problem that we had was when we introduced the pickle bill, the legislatures and the Department of Health said, well, we'll go along with this, but we want the people to have a license or at least a certificate. Well, in 2004, maybe some of this had been around, but that's when the university went through a major transition in the regional centers and everything else, and we weren't able to guarantee the legislature or anybody else that we could do all these trainings. So basically what they put in the bill is it was highly recommended. Well, now it's probably, when we're done with this new legislation, it's going to be a lot more than highly recommended. You will take a class, you will have a certificate. Will it happen in 2015? I doubt it. But when you deal with the legislation part of things, things happen at different rates of speed. So we'll just have to kind of see. There is some driving behind that, but be aware of that. Another hot piece of legislation is the wine bill, call it that. It's not introduced by the Minnesota Farmers Market Association, but by some others who want you to be able to sell homemade wine at farmers markets. The only other state that I know that does that for sure is California. There may be others. There's a lot of hassle out there. Will it happen? Can't guarantee it, but I would say there'd be a possibility. And that don't mean you can make some wine in the basement and sell it. I think there's going to be a little bit more to it than that. But anyway, so just kind of keep that up in mind. Then the other thing, a couple other quick things here. The Minnesota Spring Market Conference, an annual meeting, is basically March 17th in Monticello. There are also flyers going around with the agenda for that day. Some really good speakers coming in. So, if you can attend, and I think Linda Kingery said that she would cover the travel cost and registration for any of our markets in that Northwest District if you were interested in attending. So, Just the last thing I want to mention here is for those of you that are involved in high tunnels, season extension and general production, we're going to be doing a season extension field day on March 5th. That's actually next week here by Frazee. And we're going to start with a free lunch at 12 noon at Spanky Stonehearth restaurant. And then we'll follow that by a workshop. We were hoping to run it kind of loosey-goosey so we can have people just ask questions and kind of go into some topics. We'll see how that goes. Then around mid-afternoon, we're all going to go over to Lina Farms near Pelican Rapids, view their high tunnels, and also they're one of the experimental farms that's doing a deep winter greenhouse. A deep winter greenhouse is a greenhouse that through most solar heat, even in the wintertime, you can produce all year long. They're relatively small, but we're trying to do the prototypes. So, and again, everybody is more than welcome to attend. We'd like you to go ahead and register for that. And another thing we're able to do is start up the Sustainable Agriculture Association, Sustainable Farmers Association. And Noelle is one of the key leaders, so you want to get up and talk just a little bit about that.
I'd be happy to. Just one thing about the season extension field day. That's not one of the pieces of paper going around, and that is in 1 week. So if you're interested in that, there's a few handouts over by Anna. They're in front of the candy. Or I have business cards if we run out of handouts and you want an electronic copy. So I just want to make sure that you have the info for that. So the other thing that Terry just mentioned is this, who's heard of the Sustainable Farming Association of Minnesota? Okay, a lot of you. So it's a statewide association. They have the statewide association, but they also have regional and local chapters, which operate fairly autonomously. And so we have had a chapter, the Lake Agassiz chapter, which covers our whole region from like Fergus Falls, north, from North Dakota to Bemidji, basically, is the region. And it was inactive for a few years. And a group of us, have just reactivated the chapter. So raise your hand if you're on the board or an advisor to the board. Okay, so you can see the folks in the room to talk to about that. It's a great organization, wonderful for growers, especially those interested in sustainability, organic. And we are, with our chapter that we just formed, we have a really strong board of 13 great, established producers like Genetics and Mark Bowen, as well as newer producers like myself. And we're planning on doing a lot of grower education. We just got done doing 3 events called Good Food from Good Farms. Raise your hand if you attended. These ladies over here helped organize one of those. Thank you. And so we're just hoping to really, we've already hit the ground running with reactivating the chapter, and we're hoping to do a lot of educational events. We've talked about maybe a conference in our region so that our growers don't have to travel to St. Cloud or the cities like they always have to go to things. And I do have enough handouts about SFA for everyone, also by the candy. And feel free to talk to me or any of the other board members that raise their hands. What? Yeah, and we've talked about maybe doing some kind of more public festival types of events. Chicken Festival was one idea. We haven't landed on what we're going to do for sure this next year, but stay tuned and please, become a member. Encourage your growers to become a member and to be involved, because I think we'll have a lot of exciting things happening coming up. So, thanks.
Thank you. Let's turn back to Linda unless there's any questions anybody has.
Say, Terry, with the training that's coming up for the continuous pickle build, my questions were, will that training be something that's a one-time training, or is it going to be something that you're going to have to do every 5 years, or 3 years research, or annual research? And if you get certified, is that something that you have to display at your booth if you're going to put it up in the farmer's market? And if you don't have that, can you not sell at the farmer's market, or how will those intricate pieces work?
It's a very good question. That's what we're hassling out right now. First of all, when you're done, you will have a certificate or a license, and without it, you can't sell, period. So in order to get that, you're probably going to have to take the training. The latest thing that we also got the Department of Health in here, Department of Ag in here, which are just great players. They come from a little bit different areas of the inspectors say, before we can actually enforce something, there have to be some rules. So that they're the ones that are saying they got to have a piece of paper. So if I go to their farmers market to their stand and they're selling pickles and they don't have a piece of license, just like you driving a car, they're in violation. And they've never been able to really do that. And that's what they're after, because we see more of a trend towards developing more cottage industries in the state, and the inspectors want to be able to have a handle on it. And I definitely support that 100%. The other thing they're really looking at that kind of made me is a two-tier system. In other words, you could sell up to $5,000 with a minimal class and get your certificate. If you're going to sell over that, then you're looking at some pretty strong fees, some more classes, and more done. The only thing that they really came up with is the fact that there will be continuing education. It won't be a once-in-a-lifetime deal. They haven't decided on 3 years or 5 years or whatever, but there will be some.
Can I add something? I think right now, what I'm hearing throughout the state is it's really a good marketing tool. It might not be required, they might not be counting this year to make sure you have a certificate, but if you have a certificate this year, I would display it and I would put it in your marketing materials that this farmer's market has growers certified or that have attended this training. It's, the local public is looking for, they want to know that you're conscientious about how you're handling the foods. And so, if nothing else, I would encourage you to think about it as a tool for marketing and interaction with your community.
And that's an excellent point there. So if you have a display for your farmer's market stand, I definitely have it up there if you have basically all your certificates within reason.
Or put it on, your local ad in your newspaper.
Right, yeah. Yeah, food safety is a big concern with everybody.
Okay, I'm confused. Are they just redoing the old bill, or is this a new bill that's coming?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question, whether it'll be. In order,
Jerry, let me help you with that one.
Go ahead.
It's all a finely knit fabric. And sometimes we know the pattern and how to put it together. And sometimes we just don't know at a certain point until we've educated ourselves. So I guess the long and the short of it is, we're not sure.
Yeah, we'll probably, in most bills, if it's still going to be called a pickle bill or that, will just be redone. I don't know where you get to the point where you throw something out and write a new bill or where you redo the other one. So anyway, but
Let's just eat well enough for long.
any other questions?
It's working.
It's confusing.
Go ahead.
Would this just be enforced at farmers markets, or will it be beyond that? Because people that sell other than
Technically, the way the law is, they can only sell at farmers market or a major community event. But, the inspectors, a lot of people, we know that that's not the case.
And the definition of a farmer's market is pretty loose. It's like three growers meeting together at a rural.
But it does have to be at a public location. And that, that kind of makes the big difference too. I'll be honest with you, there are some legislatures that want to open this wide open. That anybody can sell, and that's where they have came in with the classes. And so there's a lot in the air, like Linda says, that's going on. Is it going to happen in 2015? It could, but I don't know. I wouldn't gamble on it.
Now here we are at the market. Some of you have taken advantage of our one vendor that does hand-dipped candies. That's been very nice. And some of you have perused the vegetables here. And because we have such a, what would you call it, a specific growing season to include prickly pears, because you all have those in your market, and eggplant, cucumbers, and avocados at the same time with cantaloupe. It all works out well. So this vendor has decided that She is either going to wear something that is being sponsored by somebody that is supporting the market, or she is going to have a very nice Minnesota grown apron that will be back in production soon. Mr. H?
Yes.
Correct. Do you have full aprons available?
We will do two styles of aprons. We will do full aprons and half aprons. And the reason for that is because we used to do full aprons, and when we did full aprons, we heard from everybody who wanted half aprons. So then we made half aprons, and then we heard from all the people who like the full aprons. So we will do both. So you'll have both. And they'll like that apron, they will have pockets. There's 3 pockets on each of those aprons so that you can keep your things separate from each other. Yeah, your gadgets separate from the
Where
money.
you can
And so.
put your money in here for the vendor, where all of our vendors at the market wear this, they find it real handy. They, oh, you need a pen to sign your check. Yeah, I need to make change. There's pockets seem to gather stuff magically. Yeah. So this vendor here has decided that to get the professional look, we are going to be using Minnesota-grown products. There is nothing that people like more than purchasing something that has something on it that says Minnesota. And Minnesota grown is best. Tourists are swarming the areas that we all live in the summer. And they're looking for the honey that has Minnesota grown honey. Because I live in Iowa and I just want to bring something home to my girl who was watching my dogs or something while I was on vacation. And I want to gift somebody for their birthday, so I'm going to buy this ahead of time to bring back.
Local boy tomatoes, is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
I made that up. I'm not sure if there is such a thing. But somebody ought to invent one if there's not.
Well, this market is so unique, I'm sure that Local Boy Tomatoes is run rampant in the hallway after we're done. Yes. Nothing is going to give you a more professional look at your market and connecting with Minnesota grown and having, oh my gosh, Paul, rubber bands. Who likes rubber bands?
There's a couple of things that are new. Like for people who sell anything in a bunch, rhubarb, asparagus, broccoli, you name it, anything that's kind of got a bunch, we now have a rubber band it's got Minnesota grown on it, so you can use the rubber band to keep that together. And by the way, everything that we have, everything that's got Minnesota grown on it is free to a member. Whether you order one of these or 100,000. You can order as much as you want as long as you're a member. It costs you $20 to be a member. Stickers, everything that you're going to see is all included in there. So we have rubber bands that are new, but a person was asking me during the break, what are these little blue things for and how do you use them? The rubber bands are functional in that they'll keep your stuff together, but these little blue tags clip right over the top of them so that you can now have a nice little bright visible Minnesota grown logo. The blue stands out, but then you can price it as well. So you can use, they make things where it's all one piece. They're really expensive and then you lose the flexibility of, there's times where all you're going to want to do is put a rubber band around it. But this will let you do both. You can snap that on. You can also change your price easily if you want to. The other thing that these turn out are nice for is folks who use those little trays to put peppers and other things in. This will snap right on the front of your tray so that you can easily put a price thing on the front of your tray and make it more visible. The other thing that works well in the tray are these little smiling veggie things, and that's how creative we are at naming. It's a picture of vegetables with smiles, so we call them smiling veggie tags. But they're weatherproof, so you can write on these with a permanent marker. They're weatherproof, and with the stake on them, they'll slide right into the front or the back of your tray, however you want to do it. Twist ties are relatively new. If you used them right away, you may have thought they were too short, so what we did now, we made them longer, so these are now 8-inch long twist ties. They're fairly wide, they have the Minnesota Grown logo on them. You could write on them, they're not real easy to write on, but they do a nice job. There's something you can loop around any number of things. Something with a stalk, something with a stem.
They're really nice for bunches of carrots, bunches of beets. We use those exclusively. Wonderful.
Good. And in any of this stuff, if you've used any of it and you've got an experience like that, let me know. Now this really large cantaloupe here has the pricing sticker on it. This, we see a lot of people use it for things like cantaloupe, but also in the fall we see people individually price pumpkins with this at farms that have pumpkins. And I have to tell you where this came from, because I was just talking to somebody at the break and I said, if there's ever anything that you wish we did that we don't, tell us.
Print $50 bill.
That's one I'm going to refer to my friends with partnership, and with you guys can handle that one.
Oh, okay, good.
But I was at a trade show and I had a person came up to me and they said, hey, I like your stickers. And I said, great, thanks. He said, but I feel kind of bad. And I said, why do you feel bad? He said, because I'm always writing on top of your logo, because that's how I price my stuff. I'm not the fastest in the world, so after 20-some years of doing this, I looked at him and I said, you mean to tell me if I made a sticker that had the logo and some room on it so that you could write your price and not write over the logo, that would be good? And he said, that'd be a great idea. So you can't assume I know this stuff. You gotta tell me, and it's one of the most popular things we've got. It's also really nice, people that do things in jars, maple syrup, honey, bags of wild rice, anything like that. But if you don't do so much of it, that you've already got your own pricing mechanism all figured out with your own labels, this is kind of a nice way to put a professional looking price on those kind of products. And I think part of what Linda was getting at is, part of the reason to use things like this is one, you've got to communicate what it is and what the cost is, because your customers have to know that. But they're coming by, and part of what you want to do is convey a level of professionalism. I mean, you're local, you're friendly, they're people, they know you, but you want to also inspire confidence in your vendors at the market. I go to a lot of farmers markets where they write the price by cutting up paper bags from the grocery store into little brown strips, and they write prices on it, and that's what goes in front of their stuff. It's not exactly a real professional look. It doesn't look like somebody is doing this as a business. And you want to look like you're professional. You can get as many of these as you want. They're relatively weatherproof. They won't withstand a storm, but they'll withstand humidity and a little bit of water. And these are designed to write on with an erasable marker, like a dry erase marker, so you can change them several times before you need to order more. And of course, there's a barrage of stickers. There's posts. There's little laminated cards like this. There's a bigger one that's 16 inches by 20 inches that I neglected to bring with me. What am I missing for?
You know, what I think might be missing is that there's a gentleman in the crowd that is appreciative of the hat he's wearing. I would like to gift him a new hat.
Oh, we can fix that. We talk about this hat right now.
Yeah.
So you have a choice of green or blue. We'd like to upgrade your hat. Thank you.
I'll go with green.
Yeah, thank you. You're very welcome. So as I mentioned, you know, we'll be doing aprons again. We've done aprons. Right now I am completely out. We'll be doing aprons. We have hats. We have a variety of shirts. Not that it would ever be cool in the spring or fall, but we also have a sweatshirt as well. So all of these things are going to go home with somebody before the end of the day. So class participation is really encouraged and will occasionally be rewarded. Occasionally.
There you go.
We also have, and by we I don't mean Minnesota grown. These are reusable bags that actually the Minnesota Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association orders once a year. And I don't believe they placed their order for this year, but you can get plain ones like this that have Minnesota grown. You can also customize them with your market name on them. If you get them customized with your market on them, the minimum order is higher. They also have a sturdy plastic bag that's sturdy enough to carry a couple of cantaloupes or a dozen ears of sweet corn in it. It's not going to break. And again, you can customize them. So,
I didn't know that they could customize those.
yeah, you can put your market name on it. And I heard people at my table at lunch were talking about how you created like a frequent shopper template, lunch card. And the question was, well, what would you give somebody? And you can do lots of things. You can give them a market basket of goodies. But if you've got one of these with your market name on it, why not give them one of these, maybe with a couple of things from the market, and then they come back with this and they walk around town.
Yep.
What we've done is with the Minnesota growing bags, you come back next week, you get 50 cents off.
That's a great idea. I think that's a fantastic idea. Or you know.
And we can expand that too to include stores in the area that have donated to bags to you, which I'll talk more about later, but while we're on the topic here, today is sponsored by Minnesota Grown. The market is sponsored by Hardware Hank. The market is sponsored by, and that day, if people bring in that bag or something that they have previously gotten, then they can get their 50 cents off or a chance to enter to win something. Minnesota Grown Cookbook, the farmer's market.
Or if you really are, if you're partnering with the local Hardware Hank, maybe it's a $20 gift certificate to the Hardware Hank. I mean, be creative about finding community partners. And I guarantee you, if you went around the room and you just answered the question, does your downtown community and city view you as a partner or as a strange thing to be kind of avoided and shunned and put somewhere on your own? Some of you would say you've got awesome support and businesses are with you and behind you and the city is right there, and others would say, they kind of wish we'd go away. I don't understand it. So look for ways to build those partnerships.
And that's part of building community, yes.
I just want to share with you when you said using those materials. We didn't for a while. We just made our own little signs just on the computer, so they were nice and printed. And then we did buy the labeling license. Now this year we have a labeling license and the listing. And I love it because I send pictures. She's going to put pictures of my farm on the website. But I use those smiling vegetable things.
Yeah.
And I use baskets. I don't like that thing on the bottom, so I cut those off.
Okay.
And I tape a clothespin to it. So
Yes.
that I can clothespin into my baskets. And my entire table has the same labels on absolutely everything. And I'm not joking, I'm not trying to brag, but I get compliments every single market on how nice our booth looks. I have people come and say, your table looks spectacular, wow. And I really think it's due, I did pick those little smiling vegetables because they had color too, because sometimes your table's all green with green beans and green peas and green.
That's why you get different colored tablecloth.
A little color.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share that. And it's free. It's $20, you guys. $20 and you get free.
You know,
you need to buy stuff for $20.
Oh, yeah, she's definitely getting a prize.
So it's about building the community, gifting people. People like to get things, am I correct?
Yes.
Do you like to get a new hat? Oh, of course, good thinking. People like to be handed something tangible. Getting them to the market, especially with maybe things that you got free, that maybe there wasn't a perfect time for your market to get a mini grant. So what I decided this year was to stir up some trouble with University Extension Safe Foods folks. And I called them and I said, do you have anything in your closet that you want to clean out and give to me? She says, and I said, safe food information. I don't know, what do you people do? And she says, well, what were you looking for? Oh, for God's sakes, now I gotta be creative with these people. Can't I just make a phone call and say, absolutely, Linda, we'll send you 3,000 of those. They had nothing, because everything's gone so digital, so electronic, and I'm so not there. I want something in my hand. And he says, well, all they have to do is go to the website. Where's the website? And am I going to remember from being at the market to getting home what that website was? No. So I went through and met some people via telephone that I'm sure don't want to meet me in person. And I said, this is what we need. We're about safe foods. We want everybody to handle their produce correctly. We don't know what the farmer has done or the grower that's occasionally there. So I have 16,000 of these here. And there will not be any left at the end of the day because every farmer's market will help themselves to a stack. And you will have giveaway day on promoting healthy foods and healthy eating. You're welcome. I knew you'd love it. And there's a box here. You know what I'll do? I'll tell you what. Paul, can you give me a list here? I'm just going to drive you.
While Linda's driving that, I forgot to mention something that's new. If any of you have vendors who sell started vegetable plants, herbs, tomatoes, whatever, we added a little plant stake with Minnesota Grown on it. Again, you can write on it, but it's plastic. So, anybody that's selling started vegetable plants, this is kind of a nice way to price it and a very professional look to it. No, that's a great question. So the question is, how do you get those things? First of all, one thing I want to make clear, because most of you are involved at the market management level. So the market itself becomes a Minnesota Grown member. Almost all of you, I think all of you are in the Minnesota Grown directory. So the market will pay $40 to be in the directory, $20 to be a member of Minnesota Grown, which means so the grand total of $60 makes the market a member. The market can use the logo on its promotional materials, its posters, its website, its Facebook page, whatever you want to do. Your individual vendors who want to use these things to sell their tomatoes and produce don't need to pay the $40, but they do need to be a member for $20. So as a market manager, you can get samples of these to show to your members and those kinds of things, but you can't order 150 rolls of stickers and then say, okay, I've got 50 members, everybody gets 3 of these, use them on all your stuff. That's a really important thing to be aware of, is that when the market joins, it's joining to be in the directory and to use take advantage of the beautiful things that the Northwest region prints, like the big signs. How many of you have like the signs either that go on the light posts in downtown, or the big banner, or the other ones that stand up? How many of your markets have those? Those are really slick. So by being a Minnesota Grown member, that lets you use that logo and take advantage of that money that's coming from you.
Paul,
yeah.
when you get a chance, could you explain your cost share on new signs and even the logo?
So the $20 that a vendor pays means they get as much of this stuff as they want. But it also entitles them to a cost share program, so that if they do a label or their own box or their own bag, we'll cost share that 50% of the cost up to $200 per member per year. So if you've got a vendor, and we don't have a box, but like say that they've got a box that they bring their produce in, or maybe they're selling meat and livestock, and they've got a box that they sell their beef packages in, or they've got a product with a label. if they put the Minnesota Grown logo printed on that, 50% cost share, $200 per farm per year. So,
I benefited from that last year. We have a lovely, you know what I did on that $200 cost share for our sign was we had a gal that was graduating from U of M with a degree in art that lived in our town, and I called her and I said, "Are you up here for the summer? You visited your folks now that you're graduated?" And she says, "I am." I said, "Good, because I have a job for you." And she says, "Okay." She hand painted a sign that looks like it was digitally made, and she hand painted the Minnesota Grown logo on the sign, and I emailed it to Paul and I says, "Does this work?" And he said, "Yes." And we were gifted with a check for $200. We proved we did what we were gonna do, which just makes sense. And it was pretty sweet. And I wanna thank you for that.
no, and that's something any member can do. You can do it once a year, so if you want to roll out labels on honey jars this year and next year you want a box for something else, that's fine. It's the first time that you print whatever batch that is, the label, the box, the bag, etc. Let's see, there were two things I was going to say. One, to actually answer your question about where you get the stuff. So minnesotagrown.com is our website, and there's a members page, a members and retailers page. You can order all the stuff through there.
Do you have to have like a code or something to prove you're a member?
Yeah, we'll look it up. We actually took it off. We used to ask for your Minnesota Grown member number. Most people don't keep that piece of paper around. And so what would happen, unfortunately, is people would get to that part and then they'd skip it, and then they wouldn't order it. And so we just took that off, and we just look it up. So if you send in an order through there, we'll look it up, make sure you're current, and send it out. I do have, if you're not a member as an individual and you want to be, or if you've got vendors who should be, we've got packets back here for that.
Feel free to copy these if you need to. Anna? Oh, now I have abandonment issues. Anna left. I know, amongst
Do
other
you need
things.
something?
If she could just come in and, when she can, and we'll talk about printing more of these for those that need them. Okay, so you got something free today to give to your customers, and the more customers you get to the market, and the more professional you look, the more sales you make and successful you are. I would, dang, I thought he was going to walk out of the room. I was just going to have to talk in front of him. That Minnesota Grown thing, I'm telling you. Last year, I told you something about Minnesota Grown. I'm going to tell you the same thing this year. These people are like drug dealers. You want to get hooked up with them in a healthy, good way, because you will be wanting stickers left and right. You will be wanting those laminated signs left and right. Now that we have rubber bands, holy jeepers, let me tell you, I went nuts. And now this year, I'm seeing what you're seeing for the first time, the blue hanging tags to go on the rubber bands. I am twitchy waiting to get home to my computer to order some of these things. Just twitchy. All for $60. Last year, I got $200 cash to go towards our sign purchase. I ordered about 2 pallets full of Minnesota Grown stickers and signs and directories and everything else. For $60? Come on. Plus, you look good doing it. Now, how can you beat that one?
Something we've got that, Linda was just talking about, you want to give things, this little extra nice things you can give to customers. Something that, you can certainly use for yourself, but if you want to have some to occasionally give to customers, it's a window cling that just says, "I buy local," and MinnesotaGrown.com. These are free, so if you want to have these to have at the market and have a day where you give these away, or if you want to, if as a vendor you want to, you know, give one to your customers, etc., feel free to do that. That's what they're for. But it is nice. I think when people come to the market, there's certain things they expect. They expect to see people that they're going to want to talk to. They're going to expect to get fresh products and good products. But it's always nice to slightly exceed expectations. You know, I mean, whether that's, you know what, why don't you try this new kind of pepper that I'm just growing this year for the first time. You know, they bought whatever it is you've got, you know, give them one of those. Give them something else. Maybe it's the punch card where if they're a loyal customer, they're going to end up with a market basket or a chance to win a gift certificate to a local business. That creates a little bit of a buzz and that little extra warmth that makes it more likely that not only are they going to come back, they might tell their neighbor, their mother, their daughter, their whomever to come and also join them at the market next week.
The one thing that helps too is to join the market next week, and people are traveling and visiting your market for the first time, is to have every vendor, and I'm known to do this, I'm guilty of it, I drive my John Deere around with my trailer on the back, and I give each vendor a stack of Minnesota-grown directories to have on their table. So you're renting from me a 6-foot table to vend on, but this much space of it, this size, is dedicated to the market because that's where the directories go. And it's very nice for the vendor to say, have you gotten your Minnesota-grown directory for this year? I heard you're going to be traveling somewhere going, you can stop at all these other markets on the way. Hello? We're all working together here, right? Okay, now we're going to come to the, let's pretend that you are all vendors. Don't you like that? You get to change who you are today, just for a minute. I don't know about your market, but my market is, I don't know, we've got some klutzy people, or we're not even sure. But we have what's called a market basket. And it's in the office, on the office table. And during the day, the vendors are more than welcome to come up and help themselves to, oops, I forgot my tablecloth at home. So from the dollar store, we have a nice tablecloth that's a bright color. We're either going to guilt them into remembering their tablecloth next week, or they're just going to put up with this plastic. That's fine. We have Minnesota-grown rolls of stickers. We have signage. We have dry erase markers. We have, oh, somebody needed to write a check and they didn't bring a pen in their cash box, so we have a box of pens here. Somebody pinched their finger putting their tent up, so yes, we have Band-Aids here. Uh-oh, the wind is blowing. We need to secure gallon bottles of water from the tent in the corners with the baby bungee cords, and who has those? There's always an occasion to tape something. Signage, decorations, things that they're selling, hanging, to get the hanger to stay straight, whatever. Somebody always needs tape. Whoopsie. It's summertime. SPF 30. Well, here we go. The bugs are following us. Welcome to Minnesota. The state bird has arrived. And all this is in the vendor box, plus more. We usually have scissors. We have twine, a big thing of twine, and they pull twine off to go wrap their kids around the tree or whatever they do. But they seem to go through a lot of twine. And there's a bag of rubber bands with Minnesota grown in there, and there's twist ties in there, and there's all kind of stuff. And when a vendor has joined the market, whether it's a once-in-a-while vendor or somebody that is a seasonal person, they know to come up and help themselves because there is no waitress service in our part of the country. And they do, they utilize this, oh, I need a dry erase marker to put my signs, I need the Band-Aid, whatever. So I would encourage you to welcome your vendors and keep them happy as you can with a vendor basket. That's not to say that a customer with a little kid who got a pinched finger on something or got a sliver or whatever, right? So this is something that's going to help. People are quite impressed with having their own basket. Here's a vendor basket. And we can put this in there, or we can take things out of there, or we can do whatever. And that's part of where our market money goes, is to replenish and keep this basket going for them. The little things are good with vendor retention. If you work in a place where you receive a paycheck from, that place, I will guarantee you, does not thank you enough for all you do. That place does not show you as much as they should about how they appreciate you. It's little things like this. In the workplace, it's the little candy jar that's in the receptionist's desk. It's the little things. And the vendors will appreciate the thoughtfulness. But we still want to grow the market. And we have to take care of it. We have to nurture it. What is one thing that you have done in your market to promote vendors? To promote getting more vendors? Okay, we're done.
We got rid of some stringent rules.
Got rid of rules. And what would those rules have been?
80% produce to 20%.
Oh, 20%, okay.
That might work in some places. Obviously, it didn't work at your place. Didn't work at my place either, because I wouldn't even thought about doing that.
No, it wouldn't work at ours either. Yeah, we wouldn't have anybody if we had a rule like that. We have about 50-50, I think. Produce and non-produce. A lot of crafts, homemade cottage crafts.
A lot of crafts, but a lot of bakers.
Yeah, a lot of bakers.
Honey, 2 honey people, maple syrup, wild rice.
That's an excellent point. You've got 2 honey people.
Yeah.
You've got omni bread people.
How many bread people? Or
Just
bakers? 4 or 5.
Okay.
We've got meat, chicken, of course eggs.
Jewelry. But the common, the 4 eggs. This is a perfect example of a market that's not afraid to invite customers to come. This is a perfect example of sharing with the community an event that they can participate in as a customer or a vendor on their Saturday or whatever day you do your thing. This is a market that isn't afraid to put more money into the local economy. By having 2 honey people, by having multiple bread bakers, by having multiple, there is something for everyone. When we go into our shopping malls or our grocery stores, how many choices of bread are on the shelves?
5,000.
That's my point. For the market that says, we have a bread baker, and we want to make sure that that person spends 50 cents in the local economy, grow your markets. Your towns will love you better, your cities will love you better, your mayors will, all the people that are having a political thing, keep doing what you're doing, because they are going to notice a difference. In the meantime, join the Chamber of Commerce on your local level. Go to those meetings, meet those business owners, ask them, what is your business like on market days during said hours? 1 of 2 things can happen. You can get thrown out because you've caused a ruckus, or they will then embrace you because they've realized that you are enabling them to put more people on staff, to pay more wages, to earn more money. That's not a bad thing. But make yourself known to those people at your local Chamber of Commerce, because those are the people that you go to and you say, the Mrs. Shoe Store, or the dry cleaners, or whoever you are, your business, how would you like to sponsor a market day? I would love to be able to promote your business. This will not cost you any money. We are not asking that the shop owners give us cash, because they're hit up by everybody else in town asking them for money. I would never ask anybody for money. But I don't. But I will offer my services to them. And I will say, you know those grocery bags that you have printed up with your business name on them that says thanks for shopping at Maggie's? How about you donate those bags to me, and we will use those to put our fresh produce and vegetables in on market day. And we're giving out your name to how many people? You can go to the Radio Shack and say, Radio Shack has brand new bags for people to use, and say, Radio Shack, would you like to sponsor a market day? Would you like to pay for this implement to give out to promote our market? We've got bottle huggies, can huggies, whatever. These are from the lakeofthewoods.com, the tourism channel. They print these, why? They don't want to keep them in the closet, they want to give them away. Where do people go that might want to get something? Right? Yeah. So we're working in conjunction with this company, this business, this nonprofit, this whoever it is, to be able to support them. And what do? God darn it, in return they print that the farmers market's open on Saturday from 9 to 1. And when you're a tourist and you're coming to your area, you want to know what you can do. And that's what they do for us. And there's no money exchanged. Fair enough?
Can I throw in?
Yeah.
I really like that idea of, you go to a store and you say, hey, how about if you provide us with your bags, and we'll use those on, Saturday will be Maggie's Day at the farmer's market. All of our vendors will be encouraged to use that. Encourage them to put an offer or a coupon for Maggie's inside each of those bags so that you're distributing their coupon or their offer. And when you then give that to a customer, it's like, by the way, in addition to the nice stuff you just bought from me, you're going to see at the bottom of this bag there's a coupon for Maggie's that's good for the next week, and be sure you thank them for being the supporter of our farmers market. So you can really help close the loop that way.
Yep.
The other thing that I would, back to when you talked about, having a couple of honey producers and multiples. I'm not a market manager or anything like that, but have been around long enough and certainly respect that each market gets to set its own rules. And that's one of the beautiful things about our state is that each market gets to set its own bylaws and they get to set that. But over my time, I've seen an awful lot more success from markets that are looking to grow and that are willing to bring in multiple vendors of a product and that aren't so scared of what happens if we bring in 2 sweet corn vendors at the same time. The flip side of that is what happens if you limit it to 1 sweet corn vendor and it's August 5th and everybody that came to your market wanted to buy sweet corn and that sweet corn vendor was sick that day or they had a bad year. They got nowhere to get sweet corn at your farmer's market. That's horrible.
But that's a good idea. I like having 2 sweet corn vendors.
Yeah.
They just don't share the same tent in the same space. They are separated by 6 bread bakers. And, I don't have this going on you're selling your corn for so much and that they're breaking it too low and that's too much money and we don't do that.
The only thing I was
You
going to
know
mention,
how that
and
can work against you? Is last summer, we had lots of tomato vendors, okay, during the peak of the tomato season.
Sure.
So we have this long line of vendors. So they start at this end, they buy tomatoes. They go down here, the tomatoes are cheaper and bigger. They go back to this vendor and want to sell them back to them. I have never heard of anybody doing that.
I'm glad they shop
And they were
for
mad because they wouldn't take them back.
But here's a way to deal with that array of the same kind of produce that I use, along with the thing that I think so many of us networking with the market said, what was the greatest thing last year? Demo tastings. The demo tasting was super incredible. I mean, I'm still having people now come up to me in the winter and saying, what are you making for us, Diane, this year? What can we sample? So the way that I did it, I made sure that those recipes that we got from the association and some that I got on my own, I timed them when there was a glut. I never did one when one person had tomatoes and it was a tomato recipe. I always made sure that I timed it when our vendors, there were, a whole bunch of people had that same thing. Then what I did, we gave out the copies and I have a big board in front of our tent where I put, yay, today this is what we're tasting here. And here are the vendors that are selling. I had a big one. That was my small board. Here are the vendors that are selling the tomatoes today, that are selling the basil today, and then I had, them noted.
So they had the recipes also.
And then they have the
Vendors had
recipe
the
copies. I had them here, and then they each had one if they had something that I was demoing that day and for a tasting. That made a big difference, and I can't tell you when we had a glut how people were selling out.
And besides that, if the person doing the samples takes the day off, you don't want to go to the market that day. Because then they want to know why I'm not doing this sampling.
Oh, yes.
Because Diane's not there.
We have that thing in Minnesota called accountability. And you need to
What do you mean there's no samples
you are
today?
or aren't doing whatever you are or aren't doing. Okay.
Yeah.
the only other thing I was going to make about size and numbers of vendors. The easiest example I can do is say, so we've got this beautiful, big, noticeable tent. If you took this to a nice park in Crookston and you plopped it in the middle of the park, you might have a few people that would drive by and go, oh, there's a tent in the park. But what if you had 20 of these things in the park? People would drive by and go, what the heck's going on in the park today? Let's go see. And then eventually they learn that when they see all of those bright colored things, it's the farmer's market. That's why there's so much there. The people, nothing draws a crowd like a crowd. And if you are so paranoid about what's going to happen if we get two people selling the same thing and you limit yourself to that really small group, you're just never going to become an event. You're never going to be a destination. And that's really what you want to do. You want to be the place to be in Ada on Thursday or whatever the day is.
Yep. And that you can do that by, there's certain things in Minnesota that I've learned since I moved here from Phoenix. And one is consistency, reputation, and stamina.
And a good coat.
And a lot of coffee. It's that Norwegian, Scandinavian, gosh, I love it, But when you do that and you're consistent and you're proving to your customers that you can be counted on because you as a vendor are there every week, they will patronize. I have seen things happen where a vendor started out being a good anchor vendor at the beginning of the season. They sold pie, then homemade pies, and then they moved on and went to somewhere else. And then the shoppers would come while they were in their absence and say, when is the pie lady going to be back? Oh, I'm hoping next week, but I'm not really sure. Oh, darn it, I really love her pies. So I see Mr. Smith shopping at the market again, and I go, Mr. Smith, the pie lady's here. You were asking about her last week, and he goes, I'm not shopping with her. I can't trust her. Can't depend on her. I needed pies last week that I promised for our church social. They weren't here. Consistency. Whether you're managing a market and having consistency or just wanting to be consistent. One thing that your market might want to do, and the gentleman walked back in and then he left again. Oh, you're right there. I'm sorry. Your first name again?
It's Doug.
Doug. Linda, glad to meet you. Doug was talking earlier about wanting to incorporate more locally grown products into local businesses and on site, like here at the university, to have their fruits and veggies incorporated in their food service. How would you go about doing that? How can we as a market represent to our small restaurants in our communities, into our big towns, into our schools, the restaurants, the coffee shops, the eateries, anybody that sells anything that you're making or have been selling at the market? How do you do that? Yes.
And retailers, I would really, I see more retailers in our area being pressured into carrying these deliverable, even the smaller ones. But anyway, I just wanted to add that to the list.
And they should be pressured into doing that, because there is a wave in the United States now that says we want to eat local. We don't want the fossil fuels and the big rig truck driving 6,000 miles to get that raw banana across here and then have it ripen in time to put on our shelf. There's something wrong with that, of moving our food so much. Noelle, do you have anything to say about that? Probably not, huh?
Not publicly, no.
Not publicly, yeah. Good. Whoa, it's a big girl.
Yeah, I'm just going to make a couple of comments here. First of all, if you're going to try to sell to the local restaurant or something like that, you have to go in there with not product, but with a marketing plan for them. I mean, how is the fact that they handle your fresh tomatoes or beans, whatever it is, going to help them? Are they going to say, we're serving tomatoes from XYZ farm? Just to put tomatoes on their plate isn't going to really help them a lot. People may say, oh, it tastes a lot better.
They need
to
a sample.
Okay.
They need to taste what they're getting. You might be promoting heirloom tomatoes. And Mrs. Coffee Shop that just does paninis and salads and things has never had an heirloom tomato, but she's had a cherry tomato or a Superboy tomato. So we want to introduce by sampling, I would add that to the milieu, and a proposed, doesn't have to be anything formal. When Terry talks about a business plan, I agree with that, or how it could benefit the eatery to have local produce on their menus. They're fresher, they taste better, these bulleted points. And people would like to know where their food comes from. A lot of people today are like, oh, where was that grown? I won't buy dog treats if they were made outside of this country. So I sure want to know where my tomatoes been. Yeah. So we've got that for our business plans for something to suggest. We've got something for them to taste. Bring them 2 tomatoes. What's that going to cost you? 2 tomatoes.
I have a question about, there's a lot of food hub stuff going on. Does that run counter to the farmer's market? Because I know in Wadena, a lot of the Wadena farmers were rolled into Sprout. And I think part of her business plan doesn't allow her to sell back to Harvest Time Bistro anymore or whatever, because maybe they're too small. And I'm wondering, sitting at the table with Dalmone and David Everett, it was kind of a conundrum, because they said the food hub thing was the best thing that had happened to, the local farmers, but it kind of bit them. And so is your view that the food hub
stuff is counter to farmers markets, or can they work together, or?
You know, I always will be seen wearing a peace sign. I want everybody to play well together. I want all these structures to be broken down. I don't want the fences up. I don't want to not be able to sell to you because I have an agreement and a business plan to sell to you, and you might get what's left over because you're a nonprofit. I want our food to feed our this. I want everybody to get along. I want to support the food hubs. I want the food hubs and the farmers and the people to support the local businesses that are working their tails off trying to make a living and support their families and come to the farmers markets and participate or shop or something. That's why I appreciate you today with all these markets. And some of the markets when I first came on 3 years ago said, we know exactly what we're doing. We don't need to talk to anybody. We definitely don't need a coach. We've been doing this for 100 years and we know what we're doing. And you're sitting in this room. And I appreciate that. Because this is how we grow. Yes.
In answer to her question, we just lost our biggest vegetable seller, vendor to the food hub.
Actually, maybe two.
Yeah, it might be two.
Losing
They were
them
our
to where?
biggest invest to the food hub.
Because they can't do both.
They got a better deal with the food hub
Okay.
than trying to.
I think the payment is less, isn't that right?
Yeah, they're
But they can
different
do-
markets.
It's easier, just go ahead and take it.
And Terry could speak a lot more about this than I could, but there's a lot to be said for growers diversifying their markets. You might take your high tunnel grown, best, most beautiful tomatoes and get, $2.50, $3 a pound at the farmer's market. You might take your, they call them cosmetically impaired tomatoes, your smaller ones, maybe they don't sell as well at the farmer's market. Those are great for the food hub. And you get a much lower price, but there are trade-offs with that. So I don't know if you want to add anything, Terry, but that's from what I understand.
No, I mean, working with the food hub in Fergus Falls, I mean, I think the two run really, really close together. It gets out.
So they're not competitive.
Well, they are if we just lost our two biggest vendors.
Okay, I wasn't sure if there was a certain mindset. I know that.
Well,
That's the food hub we're talking about.
That's the same food hub that he's
Okay.
mentioning.
But it doesn't have to be, I mean, that's a case where that one or two vendors has made the decision that they would rather market through wholesale than through the farmer's market. We've got a ton of members who do, it's a both and it's multiple venues. I mean, I think of a guy like Jerry Untied who is at the Minneapolis Farmers Market. He's one of the most well-established vendors there, has been there a long time, sells all kinds of things there. But yet he also is at upper-end grocery stores, Kowalski's, all kinds of retail outlets like that. He sells to some distributors that his stuff will wind up in schools. There's a lot. You don't have to pick and choose. Now, those people evidently, at least for now, have made a choice that that's where they want to focus on. But that's their choice. And I think for
Maybe a
most
bigger
people,
market for some of our smaller vendors.
and what it does is it
Yes.
creates opportunities. So let's say those were your biggest tomato and pepper vendors. Well, hey, you're the ones that you've got like 50 vendors now, right? Well, there's opportunity for a few more folks to come in and sell. I mean, if they don't want that market, that's a nice sized market. That's an opportunity for folks.
And you will find out from the growers, not necessarily farmers, but regular folk, say, I do some pretty good pepper growing in the season, and I think that I could be part of the market now because so-and-so isn't there anymore. I couldn't beat his price, or I couldn't supply what he was supplying. And people will start, once they see the change, that gives the smaller grower in their backyard an opportunity to plant an extra row.
And think about it this way. The good news in all of that is if they're able to sell to those wholesale markets, that means there are restaurants, schools, universities, grocery stores who have caught on to the fact that people want to buy locally and they're willing to pay for it and buy from local farmers. That's a great thing. And to me, the more places people can buy local, that's not competition for you. I mean, in some ways it is, but not really. Because what you deliver as a farmer's market is different than what the local grocery store does. People don't go to the grocery store for an experience and to visit and to catch up with neighbors. I mean, you know, really? But they do go to the farmer's market to do that. And so it's a very good sign that what you're doing is working and makes sense, because you'll see grocery stores mimicking that. They'll have farmers market sales.
Yeah.
They'll you know, and that's all good. That's what is it? Imitation is the
Well, it's
biggest
funny
form of
because our local
flattery.
market is doing sampling something of that, the surface market, they're doing a sampling, and then they have a list of the things that ingredients that can be bought, and they put out, it's kind of cute. I thought about using this. They have a balloon at each aisle where that item is, and it'll be a certain color balloon, and it ties back to as they walk in the market, there's a tasting.
That's great. That's a
Isn't
great
that
idea.
I'm gonna steal it.
There are some folks I know what they're names
There
are.
are some ship folks here, and right now I'm gonna jump to hand washing. You can markets call out, raise your hand one at a time, we'll call on you and see if SHIP can help you for a hand washing station.
Every SHIP grantee is managing dollars in a different way and has different funding capacities.
I would love to hear if you did a really cool event that drew in a lot of maybe new customers or really got the community jazzed up and they came to the market. Anybody do something really fun for an event at the market?
Here. We had, when there was a big zucchini influx.
Is zucchini officially designated an invasive species?
It's not a squash. We had invited the kids of the community to dress them up with hair and eyes.
Oh, cool.
So,
Did
and
they get to eat them too?
they loved them. They brought them home.
That's yeah.
We had old friends put on a food tasting thing with their native foods down at farmers market. And they brought along.
Perfect.
We have an oval that comprises our market. I said that poorly. Our canopies are arranged in an oval in the city park. So we have a nice green space in the center. And we try each week to have some kind of event or display going on in that center as an attraction to the community, like restored automobiles or demonstration of something going on. Sometimes we have a tasting station, a sample station out there in the middle. And that if we know early enough, and we try to plan it early enough, often the papers will print that as community news as opposed to a slyly disguised advertising for the market. And that seems to work good. And then I'll mention hula hoops, which sounds strange, but we have a whole bunch of hula hoops that we have hanging on a rack. And the kids have come to find that that's pretty fun at the market. They grab some hula hoops and go out in the middle and start hula hooping, and Grandma and Grandpa are just thrilled to watch this happening. Meantime, everybody's buying stuff around the edge. So lots of things that you can do if your market happens to be situated.
Hula hoops.
That's a good one. I've never heard of that before.
I like that one.
The one thing I want to say, if your market does a kind of a one-time event, like in Park Rapids, the zucchini thing in Park Rapids, or something that you don't do every week, send that to us at Minnesota Grown. Our new website has a very robust calendar function, which is on our homepage. And if you go to the homepage of minnesotagrown.com, you'll see a calendar. And if your market has zucchini days on a certain day, we'll put that in our calendar. And then when people click on the details to get to the time and everything else, it'll link back to your detailed listing in our online Minnesota Grown directory. So if you do an event that's not an every week event, send it to us. We really like that because we want our website to be a place where people go to for ideas. What can we do this weekend? Where can we go to do something fun?
And then the market that sees it could steal that idea.
Yeah.
And pretty soon the whole region will have ideas flowing around.
And we, 2 years ago, we had music someone play music every time, and then it didn't work out last year. Did you have music? Did I hear you say?
Occasionally, yeah.
Yeah, and does that work for you good?
We had a young man who came to us and wanted to hone his violin school to see his violin skills. And so he'd come and play and stand at one end and just play his violin. And it was largely attractive. Folks would come, they throw $1,000, it was right there and it worked out.
Chuck, I think you might agree that if they have a speaker to plug in, you probably wouldn't invite them back.
I was gonna say, yeah, kind of like violin music.
This was very, very tasteful violin.
Okay.
If it's acoustic.
And our webpage, by the way, because our new webpage has a live feed from our Facebook page. So the picture I took of you while you were talking to everybody is on the Minnesota Grown Facebook page saying, hey, we're up here with all of our friends in Northwest Minnesota.
Oh, nice.
So if those of you who have a farmer's market Facebook page, hopefully you have liked the Minnesota Grown Facebook page, so you can go and that gives you a nice off-season share to let your customers know that you're not just sleeping in February, you're learning how to have a better market.
Chuck?
Speaking of numbers, one of the things I might have presented to you last year, but we did a survey of customers at a bunch of farmers markets around the state. I can't remember the number, but it was like 1,500 customers. And one of the questions we asked them was, when you came to the market today, did you shop at any other businesses in the community? And how much did you spend? So I got some numbers that are aggregated at a statewide level that would allow you to go to those skeptics in the community that say, you people are a distraction, you're not actually helping anything. And you can say, look, there's a statewide survey done by the Department of Ag, and it says 40% or whatever of our farmers market customers shopped at other businesses that day when they came to the market, and they spent an average of blah, blah, blah. So if you want that information ever, just give me a call. And we will be redoing that survey. I don't know if it'll be this summer or next summer, but one of those 2 years. It's free to participate in as a market. You'll get your own data back from your customers, so it's great market research, but everybody will benefit from the aggregate statewide data.
For $60. Mr. Paul wants to give you another opportunity.
An opportunity for those of you who might need some money for something for your farmer's market. So we have a program called the Value Added Grant Program, which is designed to help people buy equipment to do value-added stuff. It could be breads, could be jams, jellies, whatever. But it's also got some applications potentially for farmers markets. For example, one of the issues that a lot of farmers markets wrestle with is you have people that bring in perishable products to sell, jams, cheese, you name it. How do they keep that at appropriate temperature for the duration of a market? Well, in some markets where you have access to the same site, or maybe it's a city-owned site, perhaps there's the ability to run electricity to a certain number of stalls so that you can do that. That's one example. Maybe there's some other way that you want to help people keep their value-added products at temperature and food safe during market. We have a grant program that can reimburse you 25% of the cost of that. So farmers markets are an eligible grantee for that, as are any of your members who are doing a value-added product, whether it's for the market or whether it's for their other businesses as well. So I have postcards on that up there. One thing to let you know is it says there's a deadline of March 6th, which is obviously only a week away. The program has 2 cycles a year, so don't consider yourself as, oh, I can't do that by March 6th. Consider yourself early for the next one, which hasn't been, the date hasn't been set yet.
Is there a cap on the amount of money that you would be eligible for?
Yes, $150,000. So if you've got a $600,000 project, we could cover $150,000.
Okay.
It's a competitive grant. It's statewide. We've helped everything from farm wineries to produce growers who want to add a new piece of equipment for their packing line, or a different labeling machine for their
would porta potties fall under that grant?
Honey, I rent those because I am well not cleaning that.
I wouldn't, not for a farmer's market, I would say no. We probably would not do that for a farmer's market. However, if there were things like hand washing facilities that would make it easy for your vendors as well as customers to do that, would be potentially a part of that. And the person who runs that grant program is on there. That one is potentially doable. You'd have to be, you have to put some thought in how you wrote it and justify it. But yeah, it's not a. But I want to let you know that for some of your markets, that may be something that you're interested in adding, and you happen to be in the right physical location that you can do that. Others maybe not. But you also may have vendors who are coming with those value-added products to market. Maybe, how about a refrigerated trailer for a vendor that's bringing in a perishable product and they need to have a better one, or they need to have a better way to keep their product temperature. So those things are all eligible. Keep that in mind. There's postcards up there. Let me know if you have questions.
Can I just say something on that?
Yeah.
I visited with, I can't remember his name, who runs that.
David.
Yes, David. I visited with him at the Food and Vegetable Grower Conference quite a bit about this, and you were all asking what the cap is. He gave me a few little tips. He doesn't make the decision, but he gave me a few little tips. He said, if you're looking for something small, $1,000 one, probably going to go through. If you're looking for something big, make sure you put in there how much more it's going, not cost you, but how much more you're going to make. Because he said if you're asking for $20,000 to put something in, and you're only going to make $10,000 more, they're probably not going to fund that.
Yep.
Does that make sense? I just thought he was very good. He was a very good resource. I'm sure he's on there. Just call him because he was very good about that. He said small things they typically don't even walk over. So
That's a
just
great
thought I'd
point.
share it.
No, thank you for that. The other thing is, unlike most grant programs, with David, if you have an application and you're at least a week away from deadline, so it's not applicable for this, but for the next time, if you've got a rough draft and you're at least a week before the deadline, he'll review it and give you feedback. No grant programs do that. Try that with USDA sometime. They won't even give you feedback after they decline to fund it. But we're happy to do that because we want good applications. We want good applications. We want you to be successful with your applications. So David is really eager to help.
Is that true for any of the MBA grants?
For the ones that are part of the Agri program, which would be the value-added one, that's probably the only one that's really directly applicable to this room.
You still do the gap.
GAP certification we do. If anybody here is GAP certified or a vendor of yours is GAP certified, we reimburse 75% of the certification cost. It's not a competitive grant, it's a flat-out reimbursement. If they get GAP certified, whether it's through the state or a private certification company, we automatically reimburse you 75%.
I'm sorry, what does GAP stand for?
Yeah, it's good agricultural practices. It's largely practices designed to ensure a food-safe product. And they come out, Terry, you probably know more about, I mean, they look at all kinds of things on your farm in terms of how you're able to ensure that if you have your pet dog running through your produce all the time, and I mean, it's all kinds of things you look at as part of that.
A lot of common sense, too.
Yeah, I mean, but it's one of those things that for people like the people that you mentioned that are now going to the food hub, a lot of distributors, a lot of restaurants, a lot of grocery stores now require it. They won't buy from anybody who's not GAP certified. A lot of institutions, colleges, etc., will require GAP certification if they're going to buy products. So know that that's out there. Two ideas I want to leave with you. One is in the topic of tents. Let's say that you're going to buy a tent and order one from a company. If you were going to maybe have your farm logo or something on it, or your farmer's market on it, if you had that person, that company put the Minnesota Grown logo on it, that's eligible for the cost share, so we can give you $200 towards the purchase of the tent, whether it's for a vendor or the market. And I was talking to Angie about another idea that I forgot about. We have a lot of people for whom their packaging at a farmer's market is the vehicle that they arrive in. So we've had a lot of people that have put things on their doors that have their farm logo or whatever, and then they'll add Minnesota grown, that's eligible. Or she mentioned like car magnets or magnets that would go on a truck or a delivery vehicle, those are also eligible. And if you are going to do the cost share, if I didn't mention it, I need to make, you have to call us before you do it. We have to know before you've had the person make it, because we'll do a little contract, put you in the state accounting system so we can actually write you a check afterwards. So don't do it and then say, look, I did it, Paul, send me my money because I can't do it. So call me first. We won't run out of money, just call me first, and then we'll make sure that you can run off and schedule things.
Thank you for being you, for doing what you're doing, and until next year, please keep in touch with me. Respond to the vine, tell me that, what kind of drugs are you on, like, with these ideas. Ask questions, I will email you back privately if you don't want it to be public. I'm respectful of that. And I appreciate your coming out today. I hope that we're going to be talking more with each other during the season. While you're readying yourselves for your pre-season market meetings. We didn't even touch on that, my gosh.